Greetings, fellow slaves to the corn. Tiki here.
And Jacob Wile too.
And welcome to a very unconventional episode of Tiki's Universe. That's right, it's our umbrella show where we break down, react, and discuss current animation in today's landscape, featuring stuff like Milo Murphy's Law, Steven Universe, and what we're talking about now, Star vs. Forces of Evil. So, Jacob, this is the penultimate episode right now. This is the episode 10B before we get to the episode 11s next week, which is the midpoint. Very excited about some of the premises. We'll kind of get to that in some of the speculation at the end of this, but let's talk about it. Let's break down this very unconventional episode. It's the second, all but for the. Sorry, I have to keep reminding myself that his name is not Butt Frog. It's Buff Frog. All Buff Frog centric. This is all Buff Frog. It's very interesting. We get some new we get a new character in Meat Fork, who's very entertaining. We learned some more stuff about Ludo, but most importantly, Jacob, what do we learn more about that we were just dying to find out more about?
The corn?
The corn. The corn!
Yes.
Okay, so Jacob, let's just dive right into it. So we start with Buff Frog kind of examining the portal that we saw earlier on in the season that goes into the cornfield that surrounds the Muni Castle.
Yeah, and the hole that has it on there.
Mm-hmm. This is where the episode comes in. He's just writing in his journal, is mystery.
Yes.
Who may call? Weakness could be huge advantage. Help my babies have future. And then we have a new character, Jacob. We have the character that we'll come to know is Meat Fork, who is just this hilariously aggro character who's basically like a, I don't know, how would you describe him? He's like a boar. I want to say he's like a boar.
Probably. I don't know how to describe him. I don't know what he's supposed to be. Yeah, but other than he has severe anger issues.
And of course, the fact that one of his arms is a giant fork. Don't forget that detail too.
Oh, yeah.
That's his name. Hey, Jacob, I know this is skipping ahead a little, but do you know how I got the name Meat Fork?
It's a family name.
It's a family name.
Yeah, that was a pretty good setup. It's a family name.
Okay, so Meat Fork points out that Buff Frog has been talking out loud, and he just knocks him out, and that's it. Buff Frog is taken prisoner. He's put in a giant kind of potato sack, and and let's see, when Buff Frog wakes up, oh God, Jacob, you want to take us through some of Meat Fork's dialogue here?
What exactly happened? He tells them that everything that goes into the hole, he will grind everything and etc. etc.
Yeah, but more specifically, he's just like, you're not gonna talk your way out of here. He just has this very, very aggro, flexing his muscles, and the red veins in his face just get more and more poppy. It's like you have to see it in animation, but it's because the only way out of here
is I don't remember the exact line.
Is through me.
Yeah, sorry, I just saw the episode yesterday. I don't remember the lines.
It's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, I do remember the Meat Fork character. His animation was definitely interesting.
Okay, so he just yells at everyone that the corn goes into the grinder. We have a great little offhand line by one of the prisoners, like, why does he have to yell?
What's that? Then Buff Frog, as he's chained to one of the grinders, he's chatting with one of the other inmates or prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so where does corn go? Into the hole.
And if it don't go there, we get thrown down the waste hole.
Yeah, that's pretty dark, actually.
Okay, but the corn goes in the hole. But where does it go?
Into the hole.
But where does the corn go?
Oh, it goes in the hole.
So it's basically kind of like an Abbott and Costello style routine. Very funny verbal wordplay there.
Yeah,
Uh,
very who's on first kind of thing.
right. So then Meat Fork grabs the bat and he's like, "So you do know where it goes then? The corn goes in your pockets."
Yeah, but and what is what does it say when you need to meet the boss?
Oh boy, and this shuts everyone up. And Jacob, I don't know about you, but of course for me, like I think it's pretty obvious at that point we know he's talking about Ludo.
Well, it's pretty obvious before, considering I think it's pretty obvious. Like when
Of course.
an underground factory full of corn and rats. It's kind of
But I,
obvious.
I just love the build up to Ludo, though. I love how it's like everyone is just.
I just wonder. What I was wondering is if well, we knew who it was. I was ever. The question was, is Buff Frog going to find out who it was?
Of course.
I mean, I didn't know if they were going to reveal him to Buff Frog so early, or they were just going to leave him hanging, like have it be a continuing mystery for him. But obviously, considering our images, we already know he finds out.
And speaking of that, Buff Frog writes down kind of crudely in his notebook, "Must find out who is boss."
What did it say when the bat creature would rather throw himself down the whole infinite hole than meet Ludo?
Right, exactly. And he does it so casually too. He's just like, "Oh, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. I'll make sure to scream all the way down."
he's like, "I regret this decision."
Oh God.
But I guess it's still. What does it say when he'd rather jump down the waste hole than go meet the boss?
I would say it's Ludo has been doing some dark shit behind the scenes that we're not even aware of yet. That's what I think it means.
Most likely, and considering some of the faces he makes in this episode, I'm not surprised.
What? You mean like hold on, wait for it.
Like your image.
Like this face? You mean like this face, Jacob?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, like, does that not spell out crazy?
No, it is pretty damn crazy, especially with like the twitch in the one eye.
and that big smile.
Of course. Toothy grin. Okay.
So, there's no point in hiding that Ludo's in this episode. I mean, it's kind of obvious that he'd make an appearance anyway.
Of course.
but like I said, we didn't know if he was going to meet Buff Frog. That was the big thing.
Mm-hmm. So, some more physical comedy. Like the day wears on. They're just grinding the corn all day, and then Buff Frog wakes up when everyone else is asleep, and he uses his incredibly long tongue to try and get the keys from Meat Fork. But he rips all of Meat Fork's clothes off except for the boxers because
and swallows the keys.
Yes, and swallows the keys.
What's weird though is that he just uses his tongue to unlock it, so he doesn't even use the
right.
To unlock it. It was like,
and by the way, I love the animation of the tongue going into the lock. I don't know. For some reason, it feels very cat dog esque, which is fine by me. It's very amusing. It's kind of like cat dog or Ren and Stimpy style, like bodily humor done right.
At least before the adult party cartoon.
Of course. Let's not talk about the adult party cartoons.
Yeah, never. but like, so if he could just use his tongue, why did he even need the keys to begin with?
Because it's physical comedy.
Well, yeah. Maybe the keys were in there. We just didn't see it. Who knows? But he actually breaks free and actually manages to get outside and escape.
Very briefly.
Yes, before he just walks without looking where he's going and falls back down again.
Yeah, he sees the corn mill, or he sees the cornfield, and he's just like, this guy has his own cornfield.
Which is entirely empty, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is very concerning because it seems like Ludo is very much taking the corn at a rapid rate, Jacob. I mean, fuck. What can we say? The corn has become like a major plot device in this season, and I'm loving it.
Yeah,
I keep on saying this, Jacob, but they've kind of turned corn into this universe's equivalent of spice from Dune.
They're basically turning into some sinister plot device. It's corn.
Okay. So Buff Frog falls into another hole, and then he lands in.
He actually lands in the hole.
Yeah, he lands in the hole, which is a giant cornmeal pile.
Corn, yeah, bunch of cornmeals, like cornmeal.
And then we get a horrifying image. I think this is probably one of the most terrifying images of the episode, where the rats are in a maze that's kind of surrounded by this giant corn structure of the Muni Castle. And then we see the rats destroying the castle.
That's is that foreshadowing or is that just foreboding?
I think it's foreshadowing. I think that we're definitely aiming towards Ludo wants to take over Muni. I definitely think that's the end game here.
Well, he always has wanted to take over Muni, and
but I'm saying like now he's definitely got some resources to do it now, as we've seen in this episode. I think this episode's all about kind of building up the resources that Ludo's accumulated.
And he's also lost the desire to get a lifeguard body.
Right.
That was one of his goals, to get a lifeguard body.
Okay, so then we have the great meat fork.
But yeah, I do agree with you. That is a pretty disturbing imagery.
Yeah, especially like the one rat in the tower that gets stuck in the tower.
And then just breaks free of it. Like,
oh, God.
Like all Incredible Hulk style.
So then we get the meat fork gag. You know why they call me meat fork? Because it's a family name.
Yeah, that was a good relief, tension relief.
Yes, it was.
If anything, that's what it can be called, good tension relief.
And then we see just this kind of like, I am not going back to the grinder. No.
Like,
no.
And then he's like, take me with you.
Please.
Even Meat Fork is scared of Ludo.
Oh god, this is great.
that says that even Meat Fork is scared of Ludo.
Okay, so
remember, this is like the joke villain who started out as originally like some kind of joke villain who could easily be defeated by any means necessary.
Of course.
And now he has the guy like Meat Fork being scared of him. Even his old monsters weren't scared of him; they just followed his orders.
It's a great build-up, though, Jacob. It's really a great build-up.
It's just a subtle thing, but even Meat Fork, who's like building up to be this tough guy, is scared of Ludo.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then we see a couple guards or something. They're having a bunch of this or that discussions on various corn topics.
Like popcorn or kettle corn?
I would definitely say kettle corn in that scenario.
Yeah, but I was just like an example. It's like popcorn or cornmeal. There's no, I don't know, or corned beef. It's like cornmeal or corned beef. There's no corn in corned beef. He's right. There's no corn in corned beef.
Very true. So then another green hole appears, and it is followed by Ludo. And my God, Jacob, this is a badass introduction, as we've been getting from Ludo a lot this season. Just these badass intros, as you can see with this, with the close-up face.
Like, well, Buff Frog.
You can tell he's not amused at all to see him.
No, not at all. Like, he's like, and Ludo actually does like, it's one of my babies, remember? And he's like, yes, I know. I'm the one who gave them to you.
Which is true, yeah.
Like I said, that is a good point. He gave them those babies. He gave them his purpose.
That is like one of the few things that Ludo's done that's actually been a good thing in someone's life.
Which is a good point, but now he's like, I gave them to you. And he basically uses that as like, you abandoned me, and after I gave them to you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's what he's thinking, but that could be where it leads. but we get more image. Like, Buff Frog actually starts to get eaten by the giant bird after being tackled by it.
Yeah, and Ludo is wanting the bird to just straight up eat him. And Jacob, I don't know about you, but for a split second, I was getting kind of worried. I was like, oh my God. Because Buff Frog, like, honestly, he's a character where they've built him up enough throughout the season in those 2 episodes where he cares about his little babies,
Especially Katrina.
Yeah, and he'd be a character where if they did kill him off, it definitely wouldn't it wouldn't be a major loss for the show and the narrative, but it would be like very dramatic. So I don't know, man. I like, part of me was halfway thinking they might go through with that. But of course that doesn't happen. But I'm just saying, I was scared for a second.
Yeah, because the wand convinces Ludo to spare him.
Really
Yeah,
interesting kind of a dynamic going on between the wand kind of controlling Ludo, kind of maybe speaking for Ludo to a certain extent.
Who knows? Maybe that's where all this is coming from, is from the wand
That
itself.
could be. That could be the wand. The wand itself could maybe be controlling the corn and everything. Interesting.
Well, if Ludo and the Wild are saying that he's capable of that too, so who knows?
Sure, sure, of course, of
Maybe
course.
it's like they're mutually working together or something. I don't.
Regardless, I just really love all this buildup we can get
But
into.
but, but just the line like, "But I wanted him to die."
Dark but hilarious.
Just the way he said that, like, "But I want him." But it wasn't. I don't think it was meant to be funny. Like he was trying to be serious. Like, "I want him dead." Like Ludo wants him dead. Like wants him gone.
Mhm.
I mean, that's pretty dark if you ask me.
Yeah, no, and like I said, like shit, man, I was convinced for a second that they might pull the trigger on it. I was worried.
Yeah, this show can get dark if it wants to.
Yeah, if it wants to, it really can.
I mean, I'm surprised that they're allowing it. Sometimes they allow this kind of thing.
Well, I don't think we pushed the limits in the same way that Gravity Falls did back in the day, but that's a whole different monster unto
back in the
itself.
day, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, back in the day, we're nostalgic for Gravity Falls now that it's officially off the air. Back in the day, man.
But I would be surprised if this show would go in that route. I mean, they have shown like some kind of death before, dark humor, and
Yeah, that's true. That's
I
true.
would be surprised if they would show that kind of thing. I mean, maybe not like on screen, obviously, but I mean, even Gravity Falls didn't show people getting eaten.
Mhm. So the wand spares Buff Frog's life because it wants Buff Frog to take over Meat Fork's job.
Yes. But,
And
but obviously, but Buff Frog doesn't want to be a part of this.
of course, of course.
And apparently neither does Ludo, because he doesn't want him to be part of the job either.
But you don't need monsters now. You'll have wand, spider, corn, rats, and then we get some great lines from Ludo. Great delivery on Alan Tudyk's part. But there's more to be done. We getting the band back together or what?
And he even mentions the book again.
I love that. I love that. I love that, Jacob. Like to me, it's almost like Mark Hamill Joker-esque. We getting the band back together or what?
Yes. I mean, he'd actually make a surprisingly good Joker, I bet.
You know what? He really would. Yeah.
Voice-wise, at least, in
Of
animation.
course, voiceover wise, yeah, an animated thing.
I'm not sure if he probably could do live action too, depending on the kind of role.
We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, so Buff Frog, he's just like, apologies, but I think you have lost your mind.
Which is probably an understatement at this point.
At this point, yeah. And he grabs Meat Fork and gets out of there.
At this point, it's almost like Ludo never had his mind.
Sure. They're chased by the eagle, but Meat Fork and Buff Frog make it out. They kind of jump on the eagle's head, kind of Super Mario style, to get him off.
Which is a pretty cool sequence, by the way.
And I like this little moment of Buff Frog and Meat Fork shaking hands. And Jacob, I really wouldn't be opposed to seeing Meat Fork again. Like I know he's not going to be like a major player or anything like that, but I really wouldn't be opposed to him popping up again somewhere down the line. I thought he was a fun character.
He's a pretty neat. I mean, the whole concept of like somebody didn't like him, and like even him being scared of Ludo, that could be brought up again.
Mm-hmm. But then we get a last journal entry from Buff Frog, if I will, Jacob.
Go ahead.
With wand, Ludo more powerful than ever, but more crazy than ever too. He make intriguing offer, but did I make right choice for my tadpoles? I have crazy idea, but have to make sure I am not talking out loud first. A big black bug bit a big black bear, rubber baby bummer bumpers. Okay. Good. Must warn star.
Oh boy.
Rubber baby bummer bumpers.
Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Oh, buggy bumpers. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I wasn't correcting. I was just saying it.
No, fair enough. But
It's funny hearing him say in that Russian accent, "Rubber baby buggy bumpers."
just in the most dead serious tone.
Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
All right, Jacob. So I guess that'll about do it for this episode. Do you have any final thoughts?
Can't wait to see when he actually manages to warn Star.
Yeah, so let's see. We have the premises for next week, right?
Next up is Hungry Larry.
And this one is like basically Mr. Diaz building a haunted house.
Yeah,
Which
Star and Margot helping him make the scariest haunted house on the block.
Okay, Jacob, I've got to say, just judging by that premise alone, it's not going to be the most plot-heavy episode of the series, that's for sure. But it has the potential to be my all-time favorite episode of the series because I love episodes like this. I love like haunted house building competitions, and I love Mr. Diaz, and he hasn't gotten enough screen time this season. So I'm really looking forward to this episode.
But plus, we need to find out what Hungry Larry means.
I'm guessing that Hungry Larry is going to be like the villain that Marco and Marco's dad come up with for the haunted house. But that's just a guess. That's just a prediction.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Anyways,
and next up is probably a contender for the best title of the series so far.
I would say so. Yeah.
The premise for that is Star's most entertaining spell, Spider with a top hat, wants to become a fighting spell instead.
So the interesting thing about that, Jacob, is that I thought we all kind of assumed that the spider that this title was referring to was Ludo's spider, but apparently it's not. Apparently it's just part of Star's spell. But I'm wondering if that title is kind of like hinting at something. Like I'm wondering if we see Ludo's spider again in this episode. I don't know. I'm on guard with that.
Well, it doesn't really say, obviously, but
yeah.
I mean, but it gives hints that one of Star's spells actually has sentience.
That's interesting. So it develops, one thing we've been doing throughout the season is developing Star's powers. And last week we saw an evolution with Queen Butterfly and her kind of, and her like butterfly form. So, it's cool. Like we're seeing the powers, but most importantly, this guy right here, this toothy grinned motherfucker right here. Let's just give it up for him because throughout 10 episodes, throughout 20 10-minute episodes, we've really, and he's not in a lot of them. Like he might be in maybe like 6 or 7 out of the 20, but they really have built up Ludo throughout the season. I'm curious to see where it goes.
Throughout the entire first season, he was just like this joke of a villain that just like basically threw in as a plot device to give Star conflict.
Exactly. And I honestly didn't really like him at all. I thought it was really repetitive. I thought it was just like, oh, okay, well, he's going to go for the wand, and obviously he's going to get foiled at getting the wand. I really wasn't liking him. And they brought in Toffee, and then Toffee was much more interesting. Obviously, I think they're saving Toffee for the second half of the season, which is fine for me because it'll be a big reveal, kind of like Tyrell Wellick style on Mr. Robot. But just kind of Dexter parallel right there. But anyways, now, Jacob. So,
but now look at Ludo. I mean, they basically, even now sometimes from the looks of things, he makes
right now how they've built it up in season 2. It's like
he makes Toffee looks like a teddy bear.
It's like way more interesting and intimidating than Toffee ever was. And we were saying like at the end of season 1 how Toffee was obviously going to be the big bad. So I definitely think Toffee is going to be kind of like a rogue agent in the second half of the season. That's my prediction. But
a lot of people seem to think that the base for Ludo's wand is actually one of
course
hands.
Of course, right. So we'll definitely
there might be some hidden influence in there somewhere. But like I said, what makes Ludo more interesting though is like because of how he was before.
Yeah, how he was before versus like the actual time they've spent, like the really kind of slow and artistic episodes like Ludo in the Wild that they spent kind of really building up what he's capable of and having gone through so much adversity ever since the end of season 1.
Yeah, I mean, like he used like the joke character become like he doesn't make a lot of funny jokes anymore. Like he's not he's not used for comedy anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is quite an interesting evolution.
So
a joke villain become a serious threat.
So I'm really impressed by this episode. Really impressed by the season so far. Can't wait to get to the mid-season finale, which is going to take us into a hiatus. But don't you worry, folks, because we've got a couple other Disney Channel shows we're covering, Jacob. We're going to start covering on Thursday we will be covering yes, the first 2 episodes of the collaboration between the creators of
Phineas and Ferb
and the vocal talents of the one and only Weird Al frickin' Yankovic.
And we'll see. And depending on our mutual reception of the episode, we'll continue reviewing it.
No, I think we'll continue reviewing it.
What if, I mean, I'm just saying, what if you don't actually happen to like the show?
I think I'm gonna like it, but
well, I mean, there's always
if I don't like it, I just want to cover new stuff. You know, I want to grow this this cartoon vlogging stuff that we're doing. So even if I'm not fond of it, I'm willing. You know, that's the thing with cartoons. It's like, you know, early episodes of Steven Universe aren't that great at all. Early, you know, it's fine. Don't worry about it, dude. I'm sure I'll like it. But
it was just a concern.
Yeah. No, don't worry. Don't worry. Anyways, and then we'll also be continuing with the show that's been on hiatus itself for a while for the last few weeks, which is Wandering Over Yonder. Our trip through each and every episode of Wander Over Yonder will hopefully be continuing that this weekend. Big apologies, Jacob. We've just had a lot of stuff on the docket kind of leading up to Luke Cage, a lot of Marvel-related stuff that we had to get out of the way, but we're back in full swing. So, all right, guys. Thanks for...
Plus, coming in 2017, DuckTales.
A woohoo.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate all the new people that have come on. These last couple episodes we've done have definitely gotten a good response, and I really, really appreciate it. And until next time, tune in where things will get a little weird and a little wild once again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know why they call me Meat Fork?
It's a family name.